Hey, wifeys, we're back. Yes, it's your wifey, Keisha, and your wifey, Miss Symmetria, and we ready to have our third episode. Yeah, because we had one, and then we had two, episode two that was live. So now we're back with episode three, and we are praying and hoping that all our beautiful wifeys will really enjoy and engage into our topic today. So, we're going to be discussing keeping my identity, right? Because we know that some wifeys they think that once they're married that they have to lose their identity because they're trying to establish a brand new identity, right? So we're gonna have once again our marriage and family therapist, Mrs. Shamitria, that's gonna start off the topic and let us know that it's okay for us wifeys to keep our identity.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, Keisha. You know what, this is a really helpful topic to discuss. It's so necessary
Right.
um, because, like, one of the leading causes of like anxiety, depression, and even in some cases, suicidal ideation is identity crisis. And it
Yes.
is like among the leading cause of death and suicide in adolescents and young adults. And so, if
Yeah.
it's that impactful to that population, just imagine the impact that it can have on a marriage,
Right.
um, and
Mhm.
the wife and the husband. And it doesn't often get discussed because you never really think, about your identity. Um,
Right.
Part of the problem, when you start having problems in marriage. And one of the things that I've discovered, like in couples counseling, is that the couple, they come in and they like feel disconnected from one another, or they're
Mhm.
having like all these problems. And
Right.
I asked a simple question like, okay, so what do you do outside of being a wife or being a husband or being a mom or being a dad? And
Right.
they're like, they don't know. Like, they can't even remember the last time that they did anything that they once did or felt a sense of connection to themselves. And so I think this discussion is very important to have because it's so common.
It
It's
is. And some husbands think, that once you get married, especially a woman, right? That once you get married, you have kids that you have to let go of that me time. And I think your me time is part of your identity, right? That keeps you going and because it's so
yes.
much that weighs on us, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think, though, like one of the reasons why we feel disconnected from ourselves, or we feel like we lose that identity, is because the change is so swift, right? So we go from being single so and so to Mrs. So and so,
yeah,
or
yeah.
or just Keisha to mom,
Mhm.
and so, like, the change happens so sudden that we jump into this new role and we feel like we've just, left our old selves behind.
Right.
Um, and I think in a sense we do. So that's where the confusion comes in at, because when we become a wife, like, we try to keep up with like the expectations of being a wife,
Right.
and a
Mhm.
lot of times we don't even know what that is. It's like,
Because
so
and we may not know what it is because we set the same expectations that we may have seen our moms do, right? Or maybe what we have seen our grandmother do. So, and then that changes a little bit of our identity as well
mhm.
when we become that wifey.
Yeah, a lot of times, or maybe we're comparing ourselves to our moms or our mother-in-laws, like, trying to keep up with uh, uh, this standard that our husbands were used to, like cooking certain foods that they like, or like keeping a house like they grew up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And
You can
so,
still work your 40 hours. No, not well, 40 hours a week, but you can still work your 12 hours a day and still come home and still have, cook and clean and, take care of the kids and do all that. And then just let your me time and your identity, that's gone. You can't do that.
it's
But
gone. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, that gives us a sense of like maybe insecurity, or like
yeah,
um, we may feel like we have no purpose, or we're living someone else's lives that doesn't like feel like our own.
right. Because we want to have the life, the wife life of someone else. And so we feel we have to change our identity in order to match that other individual's identity or marriage style. Yeah.
Exactly. But you know what, Keisha? In a sense, we do. In a
We do
like
sometimes, yeah.
in a sense, we do kind of give up certain aspects of ourselves, like part of ourselves, when we become wives or when we become mothers, because there are just certain things that we could do as single
Yeah.
women that may not be appropriate or may not even be as fulfilling as it once was
Mhm.
when we were single women. Like
Right.
some of the crowds, some of the environments, they places we hung
Yeah.
out with, people we hung out with.
Yeah.
So in a way, yeah, we really do. We do
Yeah.
lose parts of ourselves, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing because we're creating space for an expansion, like an expanded version of ourselves.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and we don't have to delete who we were to just
Right.
open up and create space for this change to be a positive
Right.
change, you know?
hmm And I'm glad you said that to me because this is something I had written down like a while back, but it said, I had wrote, marriage can provide a strong positive sense of identity and self growth. So it kind of elaborates what you just explained, right? It can
Mm-hmm.
either be a strong positive sense to your identity
Mm-hmm.
and your growth, or at the same time, it can damage that
Yeah,
identity and that self growth, you know?
you're so right. Yeah, I'm glad you said it because yeah, you did. You made a good point when you said it could either expand or it
Hmm.
can damage it. And I think where we get lost is that we don't welcome the change. And like change is good. It's gonna happen. Change is inevitable. So whether we get married or not, we're not going to be the same 20-year-old version of ourselves
You
when
shouldn't
we turn
be.
40.
Look, you shouldn't be.
Right? Well, we can't speak for everybody, but yeah, you shouldn't
Yeah,
be. But
shouldn't be.
it's going to happen either way, and
Yeah.
so welcome that change and be receptive of it. But I think sometimes where we mess up at is that we don't often do self check-ins.
Ooh, yeah.
What I mean by self check-ins is just kind of figuring out like, okay, who am I in this space? And am I comfortable in this space now?
Right.
Have I changed so much that I'm disconnected from myself and the things that I once
Mhm.
enjoyed? You know,
Your
and if
worth.
yeah, absolutely. And
Your
and
worth as a woman. Yes.
as a woman, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and if I have became this new version of myself that
Hmm.
I'm just not comfortable with or what have you, why? Why did I grow into this space? Is it because I'm trying to meet the expectations of other people, or am I comparing myself to someone else?
Right.
Or am I just trying on, just trying on new versions of myself until I
Yeah.
feel comfortable in my own skin, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so self check-ins are
Well, you should always feel comfortable in your skin, right? I'm glad you say that because we tend to change our skin, right?
mhm,
Which is a part of our identity. Um, you think because we're trying to make sure that the role that we have now, it's so much important and valued more than making sure that ourselves is still healthy, right? And able
yeah.
to function as a wife. So that means whatever you're worthy of yourself, it should still be the same,
It
right?
should be right.
You have that husband that believes that I still have to pray for my wife to be strong and for her
Mhm.
to still maintain her identity and still want you to enjoy your life,
Yeah.
and still be with your family and your close friends, then they should do that, because, as wives, we look for that type of support. And when we don't have that support,
Mhm.
that takes a toll off of who we are, just as not just as a wife, but as a
Yeah.
woman, right?
Yeah.
And all of that plays a role into our identity, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that's a pretty crucial piece of it, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah. So it would be nice if our husband were supportive of
Mhm.
um their wives keeping a sense of themselves that's just for them. Like having a me day, like some me time, or even welcoming that and saying, hey, I'll watch the kids, you go, and you go hang
Yeah.
out with
Yeah.
girlfriends or get your nails done or do something.
Right.
I know for myself, I know that that's important, and I allow my husband to have his space. Like if he's gone and he's like, hey, I'm going to hang out with the boys.
Mhm.
I'm not calling him every,
Right.
hour, like, hey, where you at, what you
Yeah.
doing? Like,
Yeah.
breathe, take your space, because I need space from you too. Like, so, while you doing your thing, I'm gonna do
Mhm.
my thing, and I'm gonna find who I am. I'm gonna use that space
Right.
to reconnect to myself and do things that bring me, some
That
peace.
peace and
Uh,
that, yeah,
right,
that peace,
and that's
yeah.
good for couples.
Yeah, it is. And because my husband, he likes to golf, right? And I told him, I said, well, that's your me time, right? When you go out to golf with your friends, that's me time, right?
Yeah.
So when I say, I want to just, go out and just hang out, or, a little shopping or whatever, that's my me time, you
Mhm.
know? It's not because I'm married, I have kids, I have to let it go. No, I still get me time,
Yeah.
So, him and I, we had a little difference, on that me time that's gone once you become a wife, or, you have kids, your kids
Mhm.
come first. And I'm like, look, these kids now are 20 and 16.
Right.
I'm gonna still
No,
have my me. Yes, I'm still gonna have my me time. So,
that's
but
good.
yes, that time is important, right? And so we just, as wives, we just don't get enough of it. We
Mhm.
don't, especially when you have kids, right? You never have enough. And I think that takes a huge role in your identity. Like I once said, because you're trying to find a new identity, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel like,
Mhm.
well, I have a I'm a new person because I'm no longer Keisha Martin, right? I'm now Keisha Betts. So
Mhm.
what is Keisha Betts gonna be now, right? Versus Keisha Martin. And I'm like, well, Keisha Martin's still gonna be Keisha Martin, why I'm a Betts, but it's some things that I have to tweak
Yeah.
in me, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
but I still want to keep my identity of who I am and the value that Keisha has, right? As grown up as a young woman,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that should be respected.
Yeah.
And for me,
Absolutely.
if that can be respected, then I mean, we got to figure this out,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Because that's a
know?
problem. Because
Yeah.
somebody's going to end up unhappy.
Mhm.
They're going to be unhappy with themselves. They're going to be
Mhm.
unhappy within their marriage. Um, or again, just questioning their worth, questioning their value and who they
Right.
are. And so, yeah, it's important for couples to support each other in maintaining a sense of yourself that was once there before you became a Mrs. You know,
Right.
um, and giving yourself permission to do that, and giving yourself permission to change and not
Mhm.
be that same person that you were years ago,
Right.
and be okay with that change, just as long as it's because you wanted that change, not because you felt forced to, or felt like you had to do
Right, right, because it's a difference,
it.
right?
It's a big
Like,
difference.
it's a difference when you're being forced to make that identity change, and it's a difference when you're you're doing it with a purpose,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So um any other feedback you have for us in reference, to keeping our identity, when it's healthy, when it's unhealthy, when we feel like we're about to hit the ground and can't get back up again, what advice would you give us in order um, to pick up that identity um, and realign it again
Mhm.
and go from there?
Um. So yeah, again, just going back to what I mentioned earlier about doing those self check-ins,
Mhm.
right? And just recognizing the signs, because again, a lot of individuals don't realize where these symptoms in their marriage, and even um, just negative symptoms that come all of a sudden within themselves. They don't
Yeah,
realize that it could be a part of identity crisis and taking on all these new roles and just trying to adjust to this transition, because transition is something that we're going to continue to do. So we're just keeping in mind, like, even where we are now, we're not going to be 5 years from now, 10 years
right,
from now, 15 years.
right,
So we're going to keep transitioning in our lives and in our marriages, but paying attention to some of the warning signs of identity crisis. So again, just low
right.
self-esteem, um, maybe having anxiety or depressive symptoms, or not feeling a sense of a sense of purpose, feeling worthless, like you just don't fit or don't belong, like just burnout as a wife, burnout as a mother. So just
Yeah.
paying attention to those warning signs that maybe I'm not loving myself enough. I'm not pouring into my cup,
So
because as wives and mothers, we are nurturers, so we're always constantly trying to make sure everybody
everybody
else's cup is,
else, yeah,
everybody else's cups
yeah,
are full, but then we're on E, and we function on E a lot, so much that it becomes normalized. It's our norm, right?
yeah.
And we don't know it until we're just unhappy or miserable and stressed
Mhm.
out.
And at that breaking point, right? To where you say, I had enough, and guess what? We're
But
done.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So do those self check-ins, and remember to love yourself like you're loving on everybody else, because you're
Yeah.
not you can't be you.
Mhm.
Um, if you don't have enough left in you at the end of the day
Right.
to be
Yes.
or love yourself.
Yes. I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree. So, wifeys, once again, remember keeping your identity after marriage is important, right? Um, you may have to tweak it, like I said, a little bit, but you should still have that me time, right? And like um, Shamishra said, find that space, that safe space where you can check in with yourself, right? And don't wait till it's too late, right? So once again, thank you, wifeys, that's tuning in, for taking the time out your busy day and listen to the message we have on keeping our identity. Um, we look forward to the next recording. We promise we will get a little bit better. Your wifey Keisha, I've been sick a lot, in and out, but we're back. Enjoy this message, and just remember, your identity is very important for you, and you shouldn't have to change that identity. Take time for yourself. Still take time for your marriage, and remember that God will always guide you through those tough times.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Mimi? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's it. So have a great evening. Be blessed, and we will say happy Wifey Wednesday. Bye.